So the Honor Magic 8 Pro is one of the first global flagships of 2026. And in this video, we're going to talk about, can Honor beat the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with their all new premium flagship smartphone? So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and Honor has been on a roll releasing some nice foldables, some nice premium phones over the past couple of years, and this one is their latest right here, the Honor Magic 8 Pro. Now shout outs to Honor for sending this phone out. This one is now available global editions. We'll just give you a quick key spec rundown very quickly here. 6.71 inch OLED display here. This is LTPO, 120 Hz, 4320 Hz PWM, so they do focus a lot on flicker, so easy on the eyes. Also 200 megapixel camera is on board here, but that is going to be for the telephoto camera, so that's going to be good for zoom, night mode photography, stuff like that. You also do have a 50 megapixel wide, and you are going to have a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. Laser autofocus is available, 12 or 16 gigs of RAM, depending on the model you go with, and up to 7100 milliamp hour battery. But on this one right here, I do have the European edition. You're going to see 6270 silicon carbon battery on board, and you can get the global with 7100, or for the Chinese edition, which we're not going to cover here, that would have 7200 milliamp hour battery. It does have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 mobile elite platform, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and 512 gig storage on this one. So this is definitely packing quite the specs here, and I do think it's going to compete very well with this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. So when you look at the design philosophies between both of these, they couldn't be more different. Samsung on with a vertical camera array. You do have a large, what looks like basically like a lens on the back of this camera. Most of these phones, a lot of these phones are starting to look like this, but if you look at this lens right here, kind of looks basically like a camera lens right there on the back there. Just like the Honor Magic V5, the foldable phone, kind of similar to that as well, but this is a little bit bigger, a little bit better on the zooming. Now, the actual sides of this are aluminum. You are going to see yourself a camera control area right here. It's like a camera button to go ahead and double click to go into the camera there. You'll find power button, volume rockers. The back of this phone is actually a reinforced fiber plastic, so this is actually not glass, although you would be fooled into thinking it is. It kind of feels the same on the hand, so you can barely even tell. But the Samsung definitely has the more premium build with the titanium frame and the glass back. However, if you drop this is not going to crack because it's not glass. So that's really good. This also has a higher IP60 rating of IP69K, which is actually higher resistance than the IP68 on the Samsung. So this is actually ahead in that department. Now, in terms of the feel, you will see the design also gives you pretty thin bezels on the front and very rounded corners. Feels very nice in the hand. Kind of reminds me of some previous iPhones, like the iPhone 10 from back in the day when it was really curved. This is very curved as well. Feels very nice to hold. Although there is one complaint I do have. The camera does make this phone very top heavy, and it kind of like can slip out of your hands because of the weight. Sometimes you'll hold it and it'll just kind of like pull forward just a little bit. Also, my finger tends to touch this camera quite a bit when I'm holding it. They do have a facial recognition sensor up there, housed up there in that area. So you can actually, and that's actually a laser type. It's going to go ahead and have higher biometric authentication than you're going to find on other Android phones just using the camera. So that's very good. You can also use this right here, this fingerprint sensor on this phone as well. So generally, when we talk about the design and the build of the Samsung by comparison, does Honor outdo them here? And I wouldn't say they outdo them, but I do think it's pretty competitive. It gives you a different choice in the market. You do have something more rounded, more comfortable to hold. On the Samsung, you do have something more square, more iconic rectangle. It's kind of really down to your choice. But generally, I don't think it looks necessarily more premium, but it definitely is a nice alternative option that is pretty nice and exciting to use, I would say overall. Especially when you consider a lot of phones are not really focused on, rounded edges. A lot of them are a little bit more flat edged, a little bit more, and this does have quite flat edges as well, but it just kind of feels in the hand like smooth and round at the corners. So it is a little bit nice to hold right here. At the bottom, you are going to find yourself the same USB-C Type 3.2 that you'll find on the Samsung, and nice to see a SIM card slot as well. So they're not going USB-C only. Of course, no stylus support on this phone. On the left side, there's nothing. And over here, you do have the microphone holes right there. Now the S25 Ultra does have a nice 6.9 inch anti-reflective display, and I still don't think this phone beats it in anti-reflection properties, but where it does win is this display actually focuses a lot on eye care. So if we go to display here, you're going to go down here and you're going to see a lot of modes related to different eye care options. So let's go over here to screen resolution. Not there actually, hold up. We'll go here. I just seen it right there, comfort display. You're going to find a ton of options. You can see and tell that Honor is really focusing on people who have issues with PWM, people who do need phones to stop glaring in their eyes at all times of the day. And they have many different options to do this, including circadian night display, defocus eye care, which simulates looking at a distance to relieve eye strain, natural tones, dimming modes, you can change that as well. So they're giving you a lot more control over the display than a Samsung device does. Now in a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, if we go over here to display and we scroll down, you're going to find a couple of modes for vivid, a couple of screen resolution modes, which is rather nice, but there's just more customization to display here. We do have eye comfort shield as well on this one and dark modes on the right. So they do have that as well. So we do kind of have that on most phones, and extra dim modes are available on both phones. But I do have to say that this one right here gets brighter. This can hit 1800 nits of high brightness mode. Now the Samsung, on the other hand, can hit about 2000 or so, 2600 nits or so of peak. But this one can peak out at 6000 nits of brightness. So this display is actually brighter than the Samsung display on the right. Generally though, they both have relatively thin bezels. It's pretty hard to tell too much of a difference. So that's kind of nice on both of them, and they both just look extremely sharp to use day to day. So Honor definitely has a very, very welcoming display here, and I would say a more comfortable to use panel while being brighter and pretty much similarly sharp. It doesn't quite have the same pixels per inch. It's about 458 over here, but this one hits 498. It's not that much noticeable though. Overall, I gotta say, they definitely knocked it out of the park with the display on the Honor Magic 8 Pro. They could probably get better anti-reflective properties. Maybe if they want to make it a little bit sharper, they can do that. But at this point, it's definitely a flagship panel right here. So when it comes to the actual CPU performance, the Honor technically has the faster phone. This is actually a little bit clocked higher than the Samsung, the 4.6 gigahertz or so. This one's 4.47, and this was already an overclock for Galaxy CPU. But it's probably going to get a little bit higher clock speed on the S26 Ultra, but for now, this is very nice. We also do have ourselves a faster GPU on board. This is going to give you the Adreno 840 versus the Adreno 830 on the right. And all that means is that you're going to have a little bit better gaming performance. It sounds pretty normal to hear that year over year upgrades, but just this has the faster chip, the faster performance day to day. I will say though that sometimes, because this is very heavily customized, it doesn't seem to be as snappy all the time as One UI. So I think One UI's animations, sometimes just the way it moves along, just feels a little faster sometimes, even if this isn't going to be, you know, a faster technical chip than the Honor. But the Honor is very quick, and it definitely feels the part with Flagship. You do have different split screen modes, you name it, it's all here. It's all on board for this device. You have floating windows, and you have the magic sidebar over here, which is pretty similar to the Galaxy Edge panel over there. You can do basically similar tasks, bring applications over, and the like. So definitely super quick, super reliable performance, and plenty of RAM at 12 gigs. I would have liked to seen 16, but you can get the 16 if you up to a higher storage tier and certain models, like a 1 terabyte version of this phone. And battery life is substantially better on the Honor device. It does have a silicon carbon battery, but it's also a lot larger than a Samsung device, and it is capable of charging faster. Now, in the box of the Magic 8 Pro, you don't get yourself a charger in here, so you just get the cord, but not the actual brick. But it is capable up to 100 watts of fast charging, so it is significantly faster to charge and lasts significantly longer on the actual usage than the Samsung. So Samsung got to step it up with the battery. They're at 5,000 milliamp. They've been doing this for a couple of years. It's time to get an upgraded battery and faster charging, I would say, on future Galaxy phones. The Honor wins in that department. And one of the main things you're going to buy one of these flagship phones for is the cameras. So we're going to talk more about the Honor here. Again, this focus is on the Honor device. You'll see I do have that camera button over there on the top, very similar to what we find on an iPhone. And you will see video modes right here. You do have HDR video. You do have up to 4K at 60 right here. And you do have watermarks, EV exposures, different aspect ratios. Of course, you can do pro modes. And you do have panoramic, super macro modes, scanning documents, light painting. But if we scroll over here, let's go ahead and scroll over here to this side. We'll go to night mode. In the night mode, you do have the ability to do an AI enhanced image if you would like to do that. So that is available for this. And it'll pop up when it is night. You'll see over here, we do have up to 100 times zoom. So we can zoom that far. And it does look pretty good, especially provided good light and low light. It tends to get a little bit noisy at the higher zooms, but up to 10 times, it's a pretty good zoom. So overall, this is going to be a really, really solid camera offering here on the Honor Magic 8 Pro. I think you're going to really enjoy it. A lot of the photos look very sharp, but what really stands out is the 200 megapixel telephoto camera. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these samples between the Honor Magic 8 Pro and the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Pay attention to the end of these samples. We're going to show the night differences, where the Honor Magic 8 Pro seems to pull in a little bit more light and a little bit more detail, I think, than the S25 Ultra. Now, can the Honor beat the Samsung in software? And for that question, my answer is no. I think Samsung is still winning when it comes to software ecosystem. They do have a better ecosystem of products. I do think that their software looks a little more polished. It's a little bit cleaner and it doesn't have as much going on. But if you enjoy a lot of like skinned out software, I think this one's really fun. Has a lot of things to do, a lot of AI features. We'll talk about AI separately in a second here. But there's a lot going on for this phone. One UI is extremely customizable as well. I just think that it's a little bit cleaner, the Samsung, like the default way. Once you start getting into Galaxy themes though, you start getting into the real customization of this phone. You can go on and on. But I'm just saying the skin itself, I think the One UI skin is cleaner. It's more simple. I do think the Honor skin looks a little more iOS-like. We'll go ahead and pull over here on the right. You'll see it bounces very similar to iOS. You'll find a bunch of features in here, but you'll find a bunch of features in here as well. So they're kind of pretty matched up evenly there. So I wouldn't say it necessarily beats the Galaxy in software, but it's definitely giving you a flagship-like experience, including some transparency-based widgets. The device just feels nice. Everything about it just feels flagship. So they're doing a pretty solid job with this phone right here for sure. But Samsung probably still has the, I would say, overall nicer software, a little more polished, a little bit more used to this. And we've been using this software for a long time. So I do think they're a little bit ahead here. But Honor is on their way up. They're doing pretty good in this area of software, giving you the Magic OS and giving you a lot of fun features without having to download launchers. I do like that. One thing I don't like is if we hold down right here, you'll see wallpapers and styles. They got a lot of things to play with, different layouts, perspectives. You'll see different icon styles. You can categorize those layouts around the corners. I mean, you can do a lot here. You can do this on other devices, Android devices as well. But I just feel like they go a little bit deeper with the skin on here. It's pretty nice stuff. Now let's talk about AI, because that's one of the main things about the Honor device here. They have a ton of AI features. Let me go over here to this side. You'll see Honor AI space. Let's go in the settings though, and we'll scroll over here to Honor AI. You're going to see a ton of included AI features on here, including AI suggestions, AI button, which is actually over here. If you double press it, it'll go to the camera, but you can actually make this button do other things, including using some of these AI screen suggestions, AI setting agents, photo agents, Honor AI. You can also use their AI memories feature. So they're kind of taking that action button type thing that Apple does and integrating within the camera button, and they're making it kind of be like an AI type button, which is actually pretty smart if you use AI. So if you're into AI, the Honor device has a ton going on here, including Magic Sidebar, Magic Text, AI subtitles, translations, call translations, deepfake detections, AI writing, which is almost AI phones now, but Samsung has kind of been doing AI for a while. So it's not like they're first over there. And do they beat the Samsung S25 Ultra when it comes to AI? And the answer is it depends on which AI features you're using, because Samsung has plenty themselves up their sleeve, including call assist, writing assist, interpreter, note assist. You see the list goes on and on, summaries. I like the suite that Samsung gives because I think it's pretty useful. Some of them are a little bit more gimmicky to me on the Honor phone, but the Honor phone does give you a nice suite of this, giving you a very nice competition or alternative option to the Samsung. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's winning in that department, but the software experience overall, I would say Samsung still ahead, but Honor doing a really good job and giving you 7 years of updates across the device. So it's pretty much matching this phone over here in that area. The audio is pretty good on both. I do think Samsung has better haptics, and I do like the S Pen experience a little bit more. Having that option does give it a nice special feature this phone doesn't have, including DeX, which is also a huge advantage to Samsung devices. So wrapping it up, price to value analysis, this phone is around $1,000 to $1,100 US. Over here, you know, if you translate to your country, you're gonna do that conversion yourself, but it's a flagship price phone. Let's just put it that way. Samsung does retail a little bit higher, so you do save a bit with the Honor, and you do get a lot of things that actually beat the S25 Ultra, including better battery life, better camera in certain scenarios. Not all scenarios, but certain scenarios, it does win out in that department as well. It does have a plastic reinforced back, which is not always what you associate with a flagship, but it kind of feels the same as a phone with a matte textured glass back, so it doesn't really matter too much. Also, it does give you faster chip and similar software support, so saving a little bit if you want to try out the Honor Magic 8 Pro. I definitely think it's a pretty solid offering in the market today. It's a nice start to 2026 with this device right here, giving you the latest chip, some of the latest AI features, and giving you a facial recognition up there, which you don't see on a lot of other Android phones. And you do have a camera button right here, which is a lot like what you see on the iPhone. So pretty cool Android device here. Does it beat Samsung S25 Ultra? I think for a lot of people, no, but it definitely is a pretty nice offering here in 2026. Let me know your thoughts on the Honor Magic 8 Pro. If you enjoyed phones like this and you want to see more like this, go ahead and leave your comments down below. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the very next comparison. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.